Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das, but he's not here today. I said the whole introduction, he's not even here, but I am here with Mara, our producer, and of course, our special guest today, Drew Lawrence. Welcome to the show, Drew.
Thank you very much. Lovely to be here.
We're great to have you back on the show. But before we get to you, we're just going to make a few announcements. Welcome everybody listening to this on Facebook. If you're new to it, this is our daily study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the sacred literature from ancient India about how to cultivate bhakti, or how to reawaken this lost love in the heart, connection with the spirit and the divine, the very definition of yoga. And before we get into our incredible guest, I just want to mention a couple things. We have a Bhakti Vinyas immersion coming up with myself and Cindy Lunsford, our regular Zoomer as well. And it's at our farm, Super Soul Farm, the 19th through the 22nd of May. So if you want to get away, hang out with me and Cindy. It's a beautiful combination, especially great for teachers or people who are deep into their practice and want to hang out with us with great food and great people and kirtan and stories. And that's the place to be. If you any info on that, go to at Hot Cindy Yoga, DM her on Instagram and she'll get you all the info. Also, we have our Wisdom of the Sages retreat also happening at the farm. This is with me and Kaustubha and Mara, but also His Holiness Sachinandana Swami, who's also been on the podcast. He's from Germany. He's wonderful. He's lovable. He's deep. And he'll be with us at the farm April. Wait a second. Not April.
June 7th through 10th.
June 7th through the 10th. That's a Tuesday through a Friday. And then immediately after Friday morning, we're going to head down to New York City and finish this retreat for part 2 in New York City during the Rath Yatra Festival. And that will be at the Bhakti Center. That's the 10th, 11th, and 12th. That'll be. So we did that last year. It was really good. And this year we're adding on something at the farm because we're finding as a lot of people fly in from different places. And that way they can have a country mouse and city mouse experience. You know, they can get into the country, upstate New York, and go down to the city and see Lord Jagannath. Very, very special weekend. If you have any interest in that, who do they contact, Mara?
Bhakti Retreats 108 at gmail.com.
Bhakti Retreats 108 at gmail.com.
Yeah.
All right. We're very excited for this.
Can I make a couple other announcements?
Please, Mara.
Okay. We have a Bhakti Recovery Group meeting at 9:30 this morning, Eastern time. And then today at noon for Patreon members, Seth Lieberman is hosting the Harmonium Meetup group. And that's at noon today.
Oh, I have a special announcement too. Totally forgot about this. Every day this week for Patreon members, and it won't be recorded. It won't be saved on Patreon. It'll be live. I'm doing a half-hour immersion for the next 5 days on the Ramayana. It's a half hour every night. We're going through the Ramayana. Even Mara doesn't know about this, but it's happening tonight at 7:30 7:30 to 8. And if you're interested in the Ramayana, what a nice deep overview of it, join me, Patreon members. Patreon is how we keep this podcast going. It's when the listeners like what they're hearing and they want to support it. And you can go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
How do they join that, Raghu?
I just said it. Patreon.com.
No, but I mean, like,
sages.
if you're a Patreon member, how do you?
How do you do it? I don't know. You're the Patreon queen. How do you do that?
Okay.
How do you do that?
Is it going to be on Zoom?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to do it on Zoom. That's what I mean to say.
Okay, got it.
But we're just not going to leave it up. Then. We're not. Yeah, we'll send out a link to our Patreon people, but we're not going to leave it up like we do. Maybe we'll leave it up for a few days. I don't know. Talk to Rachel about that. She's in charge. All right. So I want to welcome Drew Lawrence. Drew, if you don't know, he's a prolific author, Sanskrit scholar, Vedic astrological consultant for 40 years. That's how you get great at stuff. You just do it every day, 365, year after year. He's not just a consultant for Fortune 500 companies, Ivy League professors, inventors. He's done it for everybody. Even people just want their compatibility charts before they get married. He's got clients in over 54 countries. And what I find most impressive was he headed the editorial department at the BBT. That's Prabhupada's book publishing company, as the Sanskrit editorial department. He was the chief, and they did the Bhagavatam, especially those years he did from Canto 4 to Chapter 9. So he's been here before. We have so much feedback from him last time when he came. So many people got their charts done by him afterwards. We are just honored to have him. I love him just because he's a very, very sweet devotee, despite all of his mystic insight. That's not why I love him. I just love him because he's sweet at heart. Drew, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here.
Do you think you had a calling towards astrology? Like, if you want to, like, if I have a child and my child, can I find out if my child has been practicing astrology for lifetimes? Like, if they have some sort of proclivity towards mysticism, or can you see that through a chart?
Yeah, you can. The first thing is what do people have interests in? What do they gravitate toward? That could be the first indication of a calling in any area. And then if you start to study something, some discipline or methodology or science like astrology, and you find it comes to you very easily, not as though you're learning it for the first time, but as though it's familiar, you recognize it, then likely you've done it before. And that's the way it was for me. Yeah.
Is it true that also if you have a proclivity towards bad habits, rage, addiction, etc., are those also carried with us through our lifetimes?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can see that kind of thing in the chart very, very easily. Yeah, all of our strengths, our weaknesses, our talents, our abilities, most importantly, the lessons that we've come here to learn.
Drew, it seems like there's people in my life, friends, students, teachers, that I've had them in my life for years now, and we have so much like a connection in so many ways. So this might sound weird, but I'm from an Italian Catholic family. Why do I feel not? I hope no one's listening. I don't feel that connected with any. Like some of my brothers and sisters. I was like, how did I even get into this family? Like, how I even related to these people? Do you ever, like, if I have some karma to be born into that family, it's almost like, why? It's maybe the most random thing that's happening in my life ever. Well, can you explain that? Why am I connected more with Mara and Kaustubha than I am like my own brother?
I see this almost daily with people. And the way I say it, when you were a child, you looked around and you said, who are these people? They don't see me. They don't get me. I feel different. But was I adopted? They don't recognize me. I got to find my peeps. I got to find my tribe. Now, it may not be all that clear when you're a kid, but that's really what it amounts to. and you're not necessarily born into your tribe. And especially if somebody's a very deeply spiritual person, having practiced it in previous lifetimes, you can end up in a family where, I mean, they might be good people, they might be nice people as well.
They are good people.
Or they may not be good people in some cases, like Hiranyakashipu with Prahlad, if we know that story. Then that does not mean that a wise soul or an evolved soul cannot be born into such a family, because it happens all the time. Yeah.
Okay. Is it I was studying these cases, I don't know if you saw this thing on Netflix. What's it called, Mara? We talked about it.
Surviving death.
They have all these things on reincarnation and past life. And it seems like a child dies and then takes birth in some random family. And the child starts remembering his past life and saying what his mother looked like, what his mother's name was. And so the present mother Googles these people that the little child is mentioning, and it comes up that there was a child and the child was murdered. And it's one of those weird anomalies. And so my question is this: why that family? Why did he get born in this particular family? Is there any connection with that family? That's what I really want to ask. Do we have a connection, or is it just like, you can work out your karma with these people? But have I been traveling with family or friends or family and parents and siblings for lifetimes, or is it just random people we get born into?
Well, that's a good question. My experience tells me, and my understanding is that souls travel in groups, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, and they change roles. What you very often see, you'll see, for example, that the child, suppose you're the child in the family, will have a very powerful, loving, deep loving connection with one of the parents. And you'll see that in the chart, as in past lives, they were husband and wife or lovers.
Oh, weird. Interesting.
Oh, no,
Interesting and weird.
Very, very common. And in this life, and it's nothing untoward about it. In this life, it's mother and son, or father and daughter, or father and son, or whatever it might be. But you'll find that the connections between those two people among the family members, they're the closest. And they're somehow, they have a bond that the other ones don't. So I've seen that frequently.
I've heard that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Is it true that people who are married, they remarry the same people like for 7 generations? Did I fabricate that, or is it just a hearsay?
Well, I'm not sure about that. I'll tell you what does happen though. If two people were together in a previous lifetime, and this I've seen on many occasions, as a husband, wife, or lovers, star-crossed lovers, so to speak, and what you can see is, yes, that's what they were in a past life, and now in this life, one's the father and one's the daughter, say, for example, right? But the father is not engaged with this child. He's working all the time. He's traveling all the time. He's non-communicative. He sits in that chair over there, says nothing. And there you can often see that in the past life, there was a separation. She left him in the past life. And in this lifetime, he's abandoned her, even though they're still together. So it's a form of emotional abandonment, or communication abandonment, or, neglect. I've seen that lots of times.
Wow.
That doesn't mean that there isn't a love or an admiration, or that hope and expectation. When's my father going to notice me?
Right.
When's he going to see me? When will he pat me on the back and tell me I've done good?
What?
People hold their breath their entire life waiting for that, my friends. That's not a good idea.
Yes. Is there such thing as would you call that a soulmate? Someone who's been life, they've worked through their issues in a previous life, and they've come again to and they've been waiting to meet each other. Is that fabricated in Hollywood, or is that a real thing?
Well, a soulmate for me, based on my experience with astrology, Vedic astrology, is when you meet somebody and you go, do I know you? Did we meet before? I mean, because you look really familiar to me.
I get that, yeah.
And there's this recognition, this comfortability, this familiarity. It's a bit uncanny. And then you go, well, were you here? Were you? No. We never met. And then you sit there and you speak about everything under the sun for 5 hours, easy. And you can sit there and say nothing between each other, and that's fine too. And it's that kind of connection that I see as a soulmate connection. Now, those two people, if they're attracted to each other, you know, like male and female type of a gender attraction, that
oops, is he frozen?
Be married. Or one might live in a foreign country, or any one of a number of reasons what prohibits it, or they might come together for a time and exchange whatever that they needed to exchange, and then one goes off. Yeah, that happens. Definitely.
I believe that. What are you working on lately?
What am I working on?
Yeah, what are you working on? Or what would you like to share about specifically? We had some bullet points we were talking about of
well, I was gonna
we didn't cover it last time.
I thought I'd tell you this personal story, if that's okay.
I love personal stories.
Well, here's one for me. So when I was about 5, 6, or 7, I got up one morning and my mother sat me down. I was still in my pajamas. I remember as if it were yesterday, the sun was streaming in through the window. And she says, Dad and I really love you. Good.
Check.
But we're not your real parents.
That happened to you? That
Yeah.
happened to you?
I'm telling you the story. But we're not your real parents. I'm like, oh. Now your mother, your real mother, who really loves you, she was forced to give you up for adoption. She was only 18. She wasn't married. She came from a little country town where they knew everybody. They sent her off to the big city and don't come home until this is dealt with. Went to a home with the nuns for unwed mothers. Right. So but she says she really loves you. My heart really went out to her because I felt compassion for her more than anything. So that was that. You know, I adjusted to that. Years later, I wanted to get into studying astrology, and for various reasons, which we've sometimes spoken about. And one problem: no birth time. Okay. Well, here's the guy who's doing charts for everybody. He's got no birth time. He can't look at his own. This is a very important thing. So I knew 2 things. I knew my birth name, which was, my mother was French Canadian. So my name was Louis Greffard, or in English is Louis Greffard. Mm-hmm. And I happened to be watching TV when I was a kid, and I saw an advertisement for Esso or Exxon, and it said Greffard's service station in Glentworth, Saskatchewan, in Canada, where I came from, Saskatchewan, in the middle of Canada. So I filed that away in the back of my head, because that was the surname. Okay. So now my son is born. I get married. My son is born. Now I'm 28 years old. And I'm living in Los Angeles, and I'm running the Sanskrit department. And I think, no. And then we went back home to visit. I went to the adoption agency and I said, do you have any information on me? And I said, well, do you have my birth time? No, no. They looked at the record. No, sir, we don't have that. I said, well, can you tell me more about my mother? Oh, no, 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 sir. We can't do that. That's not allowed. I said, oh, okay. Well, then, I'm going to find her. Now, I'm back in Canada visiting, right? I walk out of that building. I look up into the sky and I say, I'm going to find her now. And I'm talking to Krishna. That's who I'm talking to. So I go back to my parents' house, my bedroom that I was raised in as a child, my adoptive parents. I take the phone in, I close the door because I don't want them to know because they'll be hurt.
Sure.
I get on with the directory assistants. I said, do you have the name of a Graffard in Glentworth, Saskatchewan? She says, yes, sir, I have 5. Which one do you want? And I said, I'd like all 5 of them, please. Oh, okay, sir. They never give you 5 back in those days. They give you 1.
Right.
She gave me 5. So I had to concoct a story. Why? I didn't want to walk into her life and turn it upside down, disrupt her. I don't know what's going on in her life. I'm 28 years old now.
Wow.
You know? So I was very, again, compassionate, conscious, conscientious. So I the first call, this wasn't her. And the second call, I spoke to this lady. I said, did you give birth to a child, a male child in 1950 that you put up for adoption? She said, oh, you want my sister, Lou.
Oh.
And my name was Lewis.
Wow.
I said, oh. And she says, yeah, it's my sister. And I says, well, do you have a phone number for her? Yeah. Would you like it? Gives it to me. I said, what's her last name? Smith. Talk about needle in a haystack. You'd never find that in a million years.
Right.
Lou Smith. Right. So this is my 3rd phone call.
Wow.
So I made up a story, like I told you. Now I'm going to tell you the story. This woman answers the phone. I said, hello, is that Lou? Yes. I said, my name is Don Grayson. I'm with the adoption agency in the capital. And we recently had a fire and many of our records were destroyed. And we have somebody who was adopted through our agency who's trying to recuperate some information from his record. And we're thinking that maybe you might be the candidate. Did you give birth to this 1950? Silence. Is he still alive? Is he okay? I think about him every day.
Wow.
That was my mother.
You cried.
No.
I'm about to cry for you.
No, I was Don Grayson, remember?
I know, but you still would have cried.
I know,
Lawrence.
I had to sustain it. I had
right.
to. And I was, by the way, I was.
You didn't say I'm Drew Lawrence. You didn't drop the profile and just say it's me.
We'll get to that, but no, I didn't. Not at that point.
This is like the Mahabharata. This is Karna and Kunti.
That's why I thought you might like the story. It's not over. So am I going too long or?
God, we're on the edge. I'm at literally the edge of my seat.
Good. So now I'm not the guy that wants to find his mom and dad no matter what. And I appreciate people out there who are adopted that want to do that. And I respect that, but that is not me and never has been. Okay. So here's my mother on the line. I said, that's the story. And he's trying to get his birth information. I can't imagine why he would want such a thing, I said, but that's what he wants. And would you happen to have that information? She says, yes, I do. I had birth time, And I said, oh, well, would you possibly give that to me so I can relay it to him? Well, it's not here. It's in safe deposit box. I said, oh, okay. Would you be able to get it and send it to this address? Yes, I can do that. I gave my adopted parents' address locally in the capital city, right? And then I thought, oh, good. And I told my adopted mother, if you get a post for Don Grayson, just put it in an envelope and send it to me in Los Angeles, because we went back to Los Angeles a few days later, right? So months go by, nothing. Nothing. So I call her from Los Angeles, but I do on my Don Grayson adoption agency guy. And I said, we got a call and he's just wondering if you were able to get that information. Oh, I haven't bothered to go there yet. Oh, okay. Well, should I tell him you'll go or you won't go? I'll get around to it. Okay. All right then. So it took about 9 months.
Wow.
And it came in the post, finally. My adopted mother sent it to me. And opened it up, entered in my birth information. Spot on. Everything in my life has happened right exactly on time. It was the correct birth time.
Wow. And what if they don't have an adopted parent that they can find? Or
well, then what we can do, I can give you a set of questions and you answer those in as much detail as possible with events, month, and year of each.
Oh, I get it. So if I say, there was
I'll
a
narrow it down. And I've done that for, well, I've been doing this now 45 years. So I've done it a lot.
45 years.
And yeah, so it usually works pretty good. Sometimes it's just, a lot of times it's spot on. It seems to fit exactly. What I'm trying to get is the right ascending sign, the rising sign. I'm not psychic whereby I can see the birth time in my head. It's just mainly if you get the ascending sign right, then you're going to get the whole chart right.
You know, Drew, I have a problem trying to get my head around this, so maybe you can help. If I have things in my life like a self-sabotager or a victim martyr or self-loathing, and that's sort of like deeply ingrained in my karma from a previous life, and you share that with me.
Yeah. This is how do
I get rid of it? If it's in me, if it's sort of like what I'm genetically made up of, and if it's, you try to make a curly tail of a dog straight, it just snaps back to being curly. So, okay, you tell me these things. I already know these things. How do I get out of that though? How do I make a different choice?
This is very, very common where people have the victim or martyr mentality. And they get victimized by others, which means people use guilt to get you to do what they want you to do if you don't do it. And especially that starts in childhood. It's usually the mother that uses it.
Yep.
Or it could be the father, or both parents, but more often than not, the mother. The other thing those people will indulge in oftentimes is self-sabotage. Self-undoing, pulling the rug out from under themselves. And you might see in their chart that these are really, really talented and dynamic people, but they keep undoing or holding themselves back because they feel unworthy, not good enough, or who do I think I am? I don't deserve it. So what you're going to look for is somebody, usually it's a karma whereby they did something in a past life, even though they may have a good chart. They did X, Y, and Z in a past life, and they came to their sense, not a good thing. And they came to their senses either during that lifetime or in between lifetimes and said, oh my goodness, what have I done? How could I have done that?
Right.
Well, now we have remorse, which is excellent. On the heels of remorse comes guilt. In our world, our belief is that guilty people must be what? Punished.
Yeah.
So they come into this lifetime on a syndrome of guilt and punishment. That's the hamster wheel. Unconsciously, this is all happening unconsciously, and they attract people and circumstances that enable them or help them to do just that.
Perpetuate it as well.
Perpetuate it. And that's the lesson underlying. So what I've done, done guided healing meditation for people for the past 36 years around the world. And I can take people into the subconscious, which is 9/10 of the brain. I studied Jungian psychology for a number of years. And when it's a situation like it is here, we can go right into the past life and see who you were and what you did, why you did it. And we come face to face with the people that you hurt, killed, betrayed, whatever you did. And then you tell them, we summon those souls. Very easy to do, not hard. And you tell them why you did what you did at that time, what you were thinking. And now you've come to your senses, you feel the remorse. Please, can you forgive me? If they're sincere, they will forgive instantly. I've seen it countless times. That's number one. Number two, and most importantly, the self must forgive the self at soul level. You know, then it comes down to this, when will you give yourself permission to become who you are in this lifetime? When you say, and not a moment before. It doesn't matter what everybody else does if you haven't said it's okay to become you, or you don't deserve to be successful, or you're no good, you have nothing to offer. Everybody's got something to offer, my friends, everybody. So it's what we need to do to make this shift. So this is the other side that, you know, I was gifted with. I had a very powerful meditational experience at a turning point in my life. And when my marriage ended, first marriage, and I got laid off of a job. Not that I wasn't doing good work, it's just the job came to an end. And I was struggling spiritually at the time, because that can happen. We can be up and down. And
we know all about that.
We know that, you know, it's difficult to overcome the modes of nature, especially when you're going through difficult challenges in your life simultaneously. So I had to get my focus back on my spirituality, and I was doing this moon vrat. I was chanting moon mantras on the full moon night. And I got tons of mantras because I can find all the mantras. I know all the mantras because of my Sanskrit background. So I decided I'd do this every full moon night for the year. Why did I do that? Because what struck me most deeply is I left my marriage. I didn't have a girlfriend. My son, Anu, was 9, and my daughter, Athena, was 3. Now, when I say I left my marriage, I moved 5 minutes away, and I was in their lives daily. So, but I said, if you're a man of compassion and spirituality and love, how is it you can cause so much pain in people's lives? And so I wanted to heal that in me. You know, I wasn't about to go back to the marriage, but I wanted to heal that in me. So that's why I did this vrat. So the next morning I was meditating, and I saw this archway in meditation. And it had 3 steps, stone archway. I stepped up and I said, where did that come from? I've never seen anything like that before. First time. And I walked through this archway, and I was in this perfectly round, looked like a canyon, all stone. And 360 degrees perfectly. And
this is happening in real. This is happening in real life, or this is in your mind?
In my meditation. The next
your meditation.
morning.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, no, I was in meditation. And there's this little stone balcony, you know, up to your knees, all up halfway around. And then I look and I see, you know, I look up, blue sky, a circle, perfect circle. And then I see plants coming out of the rock in the canyon on the rock wall. And I'm going like, why are they coming out of the side of the rock? Why aren't they coming up from below? So I go to the edge of the balcony, I look down, and there's the abyss. no bottom, nothing, black. I'm at the edge of the abyss. I look over here, and sitting there at the end of the balcony in meditation is a sage, hair piled up, white beard in meditation. So I walk over to him, I bow, pranam. He turns to me, he looks at me, he goes, so, finally, you've come. What? You've come. Look what it took to get you here, is what he told me.
Ooh, what a great statement.
Yeah, look what it took
to get you here.
And I'm like, and my life is turned upside down at that stage, believe me. I'm living in an apartment with no furniture. So he said, look what it took to get you here. So are you ready now? I said, ready? Yes. Are you ready to do what you've come here to do?
Mm.
And I said, yeah. He said, good. Now I'm going to start to train you, initiate you. And that's what's going to happen on every full moon night for the next year. That's what's going to happen. You'll go into meditation and I will teach you. And I said, okay. And I said, what's your name? He says, my name is Atri, A-T-R-I, Atri. And I knew that name, you know, I had heard it, but I couldn't place it. And so that was it. That was the meditation, which was life-changing, by the way. And then I went and looked up the name, and Atri is one of the 7 sages. You know, the big
The
dipper.
Saptarishis, the sons of Brahma.
Saptarishi. Yes. And Atri is one of the 7 sages, the sons of Brahma. Correct. And Atri is the father of the moon god, of Chandra.
Huh. Interesting.
So that's what I did. And then after a year of working with him, he said, okay, now go help people. I've taught you what to do and how to do it. Now go help people.
Now, Prabhu, from what I understand, by the way, that's a fascinating story. And from what I understand, you know, mainly we're pushing divine mantras to transcend the gunas, to connect with Krishna, Lord Vishnu, etc. But with astrology, we accept, hey, you know what? There are some serious stumbling blocks that are even stumbling, not just in my business's success or my marriage's success, but stumbling blocks in my spiritual success. Like and therefore we call assistance to higher powers, not the highest power, but higher powers than us, to help remove some obstacles on my spiritual path. And so the astrologer gives mantras, pujas, right? Gems. The home is the fire sacrifice. This is different than a puja, right? So then there is the and the jewels, right?
Yep.
And they have, and now in this day and age, can we find appropriate gemstones that assist us with our malefic planets?
Yeah. I've been recommending gemstones, mantras for people who are interested in mantras, because most, you know, I have a lot of clients that they wouldn't be doing mantras, but so I would recommend gems. But people who do mantras and pujas and are really into the yoga system or into the Vedas and the whole, you know, Bhagavad Dharma, then yeah, for those people I would recommend. But all those things can be effective. You can say, some people will just say, yeah, you just chant Hare Krishna. Yeah, you can do that. But it's like, you know, if you got a flat tire in your car, we could stand there looking at the tire and say, let's just chant Hare Krishna. Well, we can do that, but that's not going to fix the tire right now. So there are certain.
It might make you peaceful and blissful while you have a flat.
Well, yeah, while you scream at the tire for being flat. Yeah, exactly. Or you can't find the tire jack in your trunk.
You know? Right. And have you found in clients or in your own life that these mantras have? I've never done it, truthfully. I've never done mantras to gods or
Yeah.
Do you find it has a quick reciprocal effect to assist you?
I have found it to be very effective. I found it to be effective in my life and in other people's lives too. The thing with mantra is it has a lot to do with, what is your history going back through lifetimes? Because what I've seen with people who really have an ability with mantra, they can chant a particular mantra and boom, they're going to get the effects right away. And some people have that and some people don't. You know what I mean? Well, I'll give you an example. My Udmasloka, you know Udmasloka? He's my godbrother.
Yeah, I do.
He was president of Chicago Temple many, many, many years ago. Anyway, he's a great, great soul. And his son, we're looking at this mantra that I had found in one of the Puranas, and we were just talking about it. And it's a mantra to make you invisible.
Ooh, Mara, that would be a great mantra, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
it's a mantra to make you invisible.
If you're trying to get through immigration in any particular country border where you're not vaxxed, it might be a really good mantra to know. Yes, I have that mantra. So his son, Radha Gopinath, he said, well, can I see it? Yeah, sure. Take a look at it. He was, I don't know, he was maybe in his early teens. So he starts chanting it, I mean, he's been raised as a devotee since he was a child. So then he walks across Venice Boulevard in Los Angeles, chanting this mantra, and he almost gets hit by a car.
There you go.
And this was like, within half an hour of chanting the mantra, he was going to the store or something.
Well, playing the devil's advocate, Venice Boulevard is a crazy street.
Venice Boulevard is real crazy, but no, the guy stops, he looks at him and goes, I didn't see you. Oh, he runs back home to tell me, the guy said he didn't see me. I said,
and never chant that mantra crossing the road. That's one important. You forgot to tell him that important information. Never chant that mantra crossing roads.
Well, I didn't think he'd be doing that. I certainly didn't want to put his life at risk. But just continue the joke. I think it'd be useful at the border crossings, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Drew, I got a question about enemies or people that are after you or people that are just like, they just want you dead. They want to crush you. And some of us may be experiencing that, or some of us may have. What are they? Are they people that we've harmed and they're just pulling it back to us? When there's a broken heart, did that mean we broke their heart, if they're, et cetera?
Well, what I've actually seen, going back to the past lives conversation we had here earlier, in some cases, if you were a tyrant and you had victimized people, it often turns up that the person that's causing the most problem for you in this lifetime was your victim in a previous lifetime, and they're getting their karmic comeuppance on you.
Right.
And that happens, Sometimes it's a personal connection. Sometimes it's just what you have to go through. But I'll say something else about it. The sixth house is stumbling blocks, obstacles, rivals, opponents, competitors, enemies. The root word of enemy is enmity. And the root word of enmity is envy.
Wow.
There's a lot of envy in the world, my friends. People are just sometimes envious of people and they wish them the worst. Just because, why does he have that? I don't have that. He shouldn't have that. Why is he driving the BMW? And I'm in this junker or whatever it might be, So that's what they do though. So the sixth house, if you've got the planet that rules the sixth house in its own sign, or I won't get into all the astrological combinations, then it can mean a Shatruhanta yoga. That's what it is in Sanskrit. A yoga is a planetary combination. Shatruhanta means the destroyer of the enemy. In other words, it's going to, if you have that in your chart, it's almost impossible to overthrow you or to take you down. In order for somebody to take you down, they would have to have a similar yoga or have that energy at that level like you do, or they won't win. So I've sometimes teased some of my attorneys that go into court that are my clients and say, well, you got to shut your hand to yoga. If I needed an attorney to represent me in court, I'd pick you right away because we'd win. I know we would.
It seems like that's
Really? Oh.
You have the insight into how to pick a good attorney. You just ask for their info first.
Yeah. Well, you know how many attorneys I know that are my clients? I can't even count that high.
All right. What happens if there's people that you're not compatible with astrologically? Like people in America don't generally have some romantic relationship first, and then they get curious and say, "Hey, let's do our charts." Can you be compatible with people that you aren't astrologically compatible with?
Well, I could say no, but let me explain it like this. When you compare the planets, your sun with her sun, your moon with her moon, and like this, the
Right.
planets are showing the physical reality. We're down here on Earth, boots on the ground, and we have a fundamental nature. Your nature's like this, my nature's like that. In some ways, we're going to resonate. In other ways, you like to play tennis. I don't like to play tennis. So guess what? We won't be playing tennis or whatever it might be. Yeah. So that's the planetary compatibility. Now, above and beyond that is the constellational compatibility, the nakshatra, which is the Vedic lunar constellations. And that's a whole other realm of compatibility that they don't even know about in Western astrology, but it's very powerful. So for example, why am I telling you that? Because that's the energetic level. That's psychological compatibility, physiological, Varna, are you a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or, what your inclinations are, health, sensual, sexual compatibility. That's there too. There's a whole list of things. And if that's compatible, it supersedes the planets. For example, if people are just in mundane material consciousness, the planetary compatibility is extremely important. Because if you're different, too far different, you won't get along. But you can have people who are different planetarily in the material reality or realm, but who are connected at a much subtler level, on a much subtler realm, the energetic realm, which is the constellations. For example, I always turn it into, it's 36 points, but I turn it into a percentage. So 50% or more, when you compare your lunar constellation, where your moon was at your birth, compared with her lunar constellation at her birth, we compare them. And we come up with a percentage. 50% or more is compatible.
Wow.
And if you get up into the 70s, that's very, very compatible. 80 percentile, almost never see that. 90th, forget it. You never see
90,
that.
you're the same person.
Now I'll tell you something else that's interesting. You got 7 major planets from, Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn, right? I think I got them all. So then you look at, well, how many planets do you have compatible out of the 7? The vast majority, this is a fact, I've been doing this for, 35, 40 years just on compatibility. The vast majority of people who get married, guess how many planets they have compatible out of 7? You want to take a guess?
Out of 7?
Yeah.
5?
3 or 4.
Huh.
The average couple has 3 or 4 planets compatible out of 7.
Well, our divorce rate is pretty high too. So they
divorce rate is around 50 percentile.
Right.
Right.
So it must be something like there's a planet of attraction, like is that a Venusian attraction or sensual attraction, and then where they get married because of that.
Well, yeah, it's not always the Venusian, and sometimes it's people who unconsciously are looking for a codependent relationship.
Ooh.
Correct.
Yeah, they're searching for.
So they attract somebody who they can glom onto and develop a codependent relationship. Have I showed you the codependency model? This is a healthy relationship, man and woman, okay? Sometimes we go through difficult situations, as we do as humans. This one leans on this one. This one supports, it's fine. And then this one writes himself or herself. And the same here, this one leans on this one sometimes, this one writes herself. That's a healthy relationship. This is a codependent relationship. This one leans in this one steps away, and this one crashes. That's
this one.
Right?
Okay.
Crashes.
I got you.
Without my leaning on you,
Sure.
Like this.
Sure.
You know,
so
I need your strength or I'll fall apart. You know, if you leave me, I'll kill myself. You heard that?
Right. Oh yeah. We call that having a broken picker. Having a broken picker, where you're actually finding the worst person in the room and you're magnetically attracted to them.
That's
broken
what I'm
picker.
Saying. You're unconsciously attracting a mate who, you know, it's not a healthy relationship, but this is a lesson that these people need to learn. Just one of them? No, both of them. They both will benefit if they both learn the lesson, whatever role they're taking.
Right. Paramananda Prabhu asked the question. He said, well, should we be looking for a person who's like a 6 or a 7 with compatibility, or is that not practical?
No, that's not how you should do it. In fact, the constellational compatibility. So I didn't kind of get finished. The constellational compatibility for spiritual people, for people who are evolved or evolving, who have higher consciousness, the constellational compatibility will supersede the planetary compatibility. Because it's not about the physicality and fundamental nature of the relationship as much as it is about the frequency or wavelength that we share spiritually. Oh no, I get you. I get you. Like my wife, you know, with my wife, Clindy, who's a wonderful woman.
Your present wife.
Present wife, who we are like chalk and cheese, as they say in this part of the world. Chalk and cheese. They're both white, but they're way different. That's the idea. So we are like chalk and cheese, in many ways, but we're way on this vibration, on this constellational vibration here. We're up in the high 70s. So I mean, we just get each other, and we appreciate each other.
You know, it's going back to that thing about you get some villain, some enemy, some envious person, and the idea that we're responsible for it. We have to own responsibility. Like, life is bigger than I know it as Raghunath. Life is much bigger than that, and therefore I had some responsibility in agitating, bothering someone, being cruel to them. And I'm just getting, and once you accept that, it sort of loosens the noose that's been choking me, where I'm so mad at them. I want revenge from them. I want revenge. And I have to accept, like, I had some part in this dance as well. And now I'm just going to have to burn off some karma.
Yeah.
It really allows some peace to happen.
That person who's delivering that karma may not be somebody who you directly offended in a previous lifetime. They just may be the instrument for that karma, or they might have been your victim. Either or. But yeah, I mean, the difficulties in life, those are the lessons that we need to learn. That's what that's about. And you know, and this is kind of how it works, my friends. before you go into a lifetime, you say, okay, let's see now. We're gonna give you these 3 lessons to learn. Okay, off you go. Here's your body. Knock yourself out. Have a good time.
Right.
So off you go. And then your life comes to an end, and you go back up with the powers that be, and they say, okay, roll film. Yeah. Now we roll the video of your life, and we look at those lessons, 3 lessons as most important. And they say, well, let's see how you did here. And what were you thinking in this scenario here? What were you thinking there? And then did you pass or fail? Is it? And because if you didn't learn the lessons, guess what? You're back. You'll be back.
You're back. The wheel continues.
Yeah. And,
Wheel continues.
For people with spiritual consciousness, it's like you got to transcend all of that.
Sure.
All of it. None of what's happening here can have an effect on you ultimately if you want to get off the wheel of samsara, repeated birth and death.
It's like we need a regular practice of radical responsibility and forgiveness to get out of this figure 8 we've been running through for lifetimes, for this life, definitely for this life.
Yeah, right.
I'm in a figure 8.
There's
Full responsibility, regular forgiveness, and that gives us an access point out of this labyrinth.
Yeah, nicely put.
I got a question. I mean, we're gonna final question, and this is on my mind. Did you ever talk to your real mom? Did you ever talk to her?
Okay.
Tell me yes.
You got time for that, do you?
We don't.
My ex-wife said to me, well, okay, now that you've got and then we went back and visited Canada again. And like a year later, it was about a year later, she says, well, you want to meet her, don't you? And I said, no, not really. Oh, yeah, you do. It's your mother. You want to meet her. And I said, no, you want to meet her. She goes, yeah, I want to meet her.
I want to meet her, actually.
So I said, okay, because she was really bothering me about it. So I said, you call her, because I'm not going to call her. So she called her because I had her number. And she said, this is her name, and I'm the wife of Drew Lawrence. We have reason to believe that he is your son.
Well.
And we would like to see if you'd be interested in meeting up with him. She says, I've been praying for this day every day of my life.
Oh my God.
That's what she said. So it was January in Saskatchewan. I mean, under 30 below, heavy winter, right? So we had to drive up to a further north city. And we met her in a pancake restaurant on a Saturday morning in a mall. And I said, well, my wife said, what do you look like? I mean, what are you wearing? How do we recognize it? We don't know what she looks like. And can you hear me, Raghu?
I can hear you. I think we can still hear you. Raghu might be frozen.
So yeah, he froze there for a minute.
Yeah.
So we're in the pancake restaurant. We're not eating anything, I'll tell you that. And we're just sitting where we could see the door, right? And she said she'd have such and such a coat on. I can't recall. And the door opens and this diminutive, very small woman comes in. And she looks around like this. And I went, and that was her. She was about half my size.
Wow.
Towered over her. Did you hear that, Robert?
You met your mom. She was short. That's what I got. We
met her in the pancake restaurant. She was very short. Stood up. I embraced her.
I hope you hugged her. Tell me you gave her a big hug.
Of course I did. I embraced her.
Okay.
And my wife said, you have to, because she's very Catholic.
Yeah.
Well, I was raised Catholic too. And she said, you have to get her a medal. So he got her a medal of the Madonna and Child in silver that says, God bless you, Mother.
Ooh.
And I gave that to her at the end of our meeting. And I said, I only have one other question. Well, we talked for a while, you know. I said, I only have one other question. What's my father's name?
Oh,
Why do you need to know that? Why is that important? I don't
I'll
know
look him
what
up
it is.
now.
I don't know what it is. Why do you want to find him? I said, no, not particularly. Just want to know what his name is. That's all. Well, that took us, that she finally provided me with it. Guess how long that took?
9 months.
10 years.
Wow.
10 years.
I think that's for part 3 of the Drew Lawrence
That is-
trilogy, The Finding of the
true.
Father.
It's all true. And then here's the capper for you. When my adoptive mother died, I was 51. So I'm in Canada. We're burying my adoptive mother, and we're greeting all the people that attended the funeral service, right? And then we're about to get into the limo and go to the graveyard, right? We're right at that point. And he was Catholic. He was priest was there, and this lady comes at the end. She says, "Hi, Drew. Do you remember me?" I said, "No. I'm Lou, your mother." The day my mother came to my mother's funeral.
Wow.
Wow.
That's when she gave it. Wow.
True story.
Drew, thank you so much for being on the show again. So if people want to get their charts done, and everybody's writing on the Zoom board right now, my reading with Drew is incredible. My reading with Drew is incredible. I can say you've read my wife, my children's charts. It was always uncanny and refreshing and gave me good insight and some good choices. How can we reach you?
You can reach me at Drew. This is my email, drewjlawrence@gmail.com.
drewjlawrence@gmail.com. Okay.
And the website is drewlawrence.com. But if you want to make an appointment, you need to email me.
Okay. Drew, DREW, Lawrence, LAWRENCE.com.
Drew J. Yeah, that's my website. But I had to put the J in. Somebody else said the Drew Lawrence.
I'll link that in the show notes.
Okay,
Also.
great.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us, everybody. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Thanks for joining us, Drew. Mara's late with the music. There we go. What can we, without Kaustubha, this whole operation's falling apart. Oh, he'll be back tomorrow, Monday morning. And remember, tonight I have this Patreon members 5 days of Ramayan at 7:30 tonight. We're going to be on, and please join me. Thanks to Drew. Thanks to all the Zoomers here. If you want to be a Zoomer, you can. All you got to do is email Mara, wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com, wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. And then she sends you the secret codes. That's all you have to do. You don't pay for it. You just get on. And then we all look at each other during the course of the show and occasionally wave and send each other secret messages. You can do that as well. If you're interested in supporting us, hey, patreon.com/wisdomofthesages is welcome. You're going to be here on the show next week because me, Mara, and one of our Zoomers is going to India for a few days before we go to Nepal. So we're going to do live from Govardhan Hill, the show. And we're also going to be doing live from the Himalayas. If you want to join me for my next pilgrimage, go to Raghunath.yoga. October 23rd, we're taking the crew. We're going to all the holy places, including Jagannath Puri, Rishikesh, Haridwar, and my favorite, Vrindavan Dham. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Mara, I cannot hear that music. How are we supposed to dance, Mara? There we go. And now the kids are dancing. You don't have to work the dance cam. We're just going to look at everybody on gallery view. Oh,
Oh, come on.
there's the girls. You are multitasking, Mara.
Yes,